After the male reproductive system, let us discuss the female reproductive system. So we can classify the female reproductive system into gonads that will include a pair of ovaries, the external genitalia that will include the vulva and the mammary glands, and the internal genitalia which will include the uterus, the fallopian tubes, and the vagina. The uterus, which is called as the womb of the mother, it's an inverted pear-shaped structure which is present in the pelvic cavity. Okay, so this is the uterus, this is the urinary bladder, and this is the rectum. So look at the situation or look at the position of the uterus. It is just behind the urinary bladder in front of the rectum. It's a pear-shaped structure. It is also called as the womb of the mother. The uterus is divided into the main part, which is called as the body of the uterus. The upper dome-shaped part is called as the fundus, and the lower part of the uterus is called as the cervix, and the cervix opens into the vagina. Now, here the cervix has a canal, which is called as the cervical canal. This opening in the vagina is called external os, and this opening in the uterus is called as body of the uterus is called as the internal os. The uterus is lined by three layers. The outermost thin layer of the uterus, which is the peritoneum of the uterus, it is called the perimetrium. The middle layer, which is made up of smooth muscles, is called as the myometrium. And it is this myometrium whose contractions help the fetus to be expelled out at the end of pregnancy. Innermost layer, one of the most important layer of the uterus, is called as the endometrium. ये एंडोमेट्रियम में कॉलमनार एपिथेलियल सेल्स होते हैं, सिक्रीटरी सेल्स होते हैं जो न्यूट्रिशन देते हैं, इम्प्लांटेशन की जगह देते हैं, न्यूट्रिशन देते हैं ओवम को, इम्प्लांटेशन की जगह देते हैं जाइगोट को, उसको न्यूट्रिशन देते हैं एंड फीडिंग करते हैं with the help of the placenta. It becomes a part of the placenta. Okay. When implantation does not occur, pregnancy does not occur, then the endometrium breaks and comes out through the vagina, जिसको हम कहते हैं menstrual cycle. तो ये तीन लेयर्स है बच्चों जो आपको याद रखने हैं. Other than that, the female reproductive system shows the presence of a pair of structures which are called as the oviducts. The oviducts are also called as the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube shows the presence of three parts. The one closest to the uterus is called the isthmus. The middle part is called as the ampulla. And the part closest to the ovary is called as the infundibulum. The infundibulum shows the presence of finger-like projections, which are called as the fimbriae. The fimbriae have an opening, which is called ostiole. The fimbriae, along with the ostiole, they collect the female gamete that has been released by the ovaries. Internally, they are lined by ciliated epithelium, which helps to push the ovum towards the ampulla, so that when the sperms enter at the region of the ampulla, fertilization will take place. The copulatory organs of the female is called as the vagina. The vagina is also called as the birth canal. It is actually a fibromuscular canal. Okay, and it shows the presence of folds, which are called as the vaginal rugae. The vagina opens out by an opening, which is called as the vaginal orifice. The vagina is a part of the birth canal through which the fetus is expelled out. The lining of the vagina, it produces glycogen, and it's a place where there is a lot of lactobacillus, which produce lactic acid. As a result of which, the female vagina is highly acidic, and that will prevent the urinary tract infections in females because the vaginal orifice is at a close proximity to the anus. But that also kills a lot of sperms at the time of natural insemination. So that is why a lot of male reproductive secondary organs, they produce alkaline fluids in order to neutralize the acidity of the vagina. Pinky finger beneath the vaginal orifice is a tissue which is called as hymen. The breaking of hymen does not mean that there has been a loss of virginity. So it is not the correct parameter to judge virginity in a female. Vigorous exercise, fever can also break the hymen. Now, coming to the primary sex organ in females. The primary sex organs in females will be a pair of ovaries, and the ovaries are covered by an outermost cuboidal epithelium, followed by the tunica albuginea. The central part of the ovary is called as the ovarian medulla. The peripheral part is called as the ovarian cortex. Okay, this is all part of the stroma of the ovary. Inside the ovary, there are many developing structures which are called as the follicles. So you have a primordial follicle which will form a primary follicle. The primary follicle will form a secondary follicle. The secondary follicle will form a tertiary follicle. The tertiary follicle will form a Graafian follicle. The Graafian follicle will rupture and it will release the secondary oocyte. That process is called as ovulation. Now the Graafian follicle will result in the formation of a body which is called corpus luteum. The corpus luteum contains lutein. The corpus luteum secretes the female sex hormone progesterone and also a little bit of estrogen. Progesterone is considered to be a pregnancy hormone because it maintains the endometrium for pregnancy. If fertilization does not occur, then the corpus luteum is dead, results in the formation of corpus albicans. तो ओवरी के अंदर ये अलग अलग फॉलिकल्स होते हैं विच आर इन द डिफरेंट स्टेजेस ऑफ डेवलपमेंट. ये फॉलिकल्स के डेवलपमेंट को बोलते हैं फॉलिक्यूलोजेनेसिस, और उसके अंदर जो फीमेल गैमेट डेवलप हो रहा है उसको कहते हैं oogenesis. oogenesis जो हम देखने वाले हैं at the time of gametogenesis. हमको ये याद रखना है कि fetal oogenesis and gametogenesis has started right when the girl child was a fetus in the womb of a mother. Okay, where at that time only she has developed the primary follicles, and as she is born for about 10 to 12 years, the entire process stops once again to restart after puberty. Okay, the secondary follicles and the tertiary follicles, Graafian follicle, they have theca externa, theca interna, and the theca interna is made up of endocrine cells which secrete the female sex hormone estrogen. And this estrogen is responsible for development of the endometrium. It is responsible for many secondary sexual characters in female. सेकेंडरी फॉलिकल से टर्शियरी फॉलिकल हम तब कहेंगे जब उसके अंदर एक कैविटी दिखती है जिसको हम कहते हैं एंट्रम, एंड दिस एंट्रम is filled with the liquid which is called liquor folliculi. ग्राफियन फॉलिकल में इस एंट्रम का साइज बढ़ जाता है जिसके से जो सेकेंडरी oocyte है उसका पोजीशन eccentric हो जाता है. Female external genitalia is called as the vulva. The vulva consists of mons pubis, which is a fatty tissue that shows the presence of pubic hairs. Then It shows the presence of the region called vestibule. This is the vestibule which is bounded by two inner thin folds which are called the labia minora. Okay, and this vestibule, this region of the vestibule is lined by two thin folds which are called as the labia minora, and two thick outer folds which are called as the labia majora. And at the anterior fusion of the labia minora, there is a tiny finger-like projection, erectile bodies homologous to the penis, which is called as the clitoris, made up of the same type of tissues as that of the penis. It shows the presence of erectile tissue, that is the corpora cavernosa. Then there is a small opening which is called urethral orifice, and just beneath the urethral orifice there is opening that is called as the vaginal orifice. So that will be about the vulva. The characteristic features of mammals is the presence of a pair of mammary glands or the breast. In the case of human females, they are present on the ventral side of the chest. There are paired structures as the female enters into the age of puberty because of the presence of hormones like estrogen and thyroxine and other hormones. It gets filled up with the glandular tissue. So the mammary glands prior to pregnancy have a lot of fats and less of the milk producing alveoli. But as the female becomes pregnant, under the influence of the hormone like prolactin, the number of alveoli in the breast increase and the adipose tissue decreases. So there are about 15 to 20 mammary lobes which are made up of the cluster of alveoli, and the alveoli, there each alveoli, it will have its own smaller tubules. So from a mammillary lobe will come out the mammillary tubules which will join to form the mammillary duct. The mammillary duct will open into the mammary ampulla, which will open into the lactiferous duct, which will open at the nipple. And the sequence is there even in my class notes. So that was about the female reproductive system. And now we'll talk about the process of gametogenesis.